on the way home, I got a text and she contacted me and she said, I want to use your poem and your song halfway home for my eulogy. She said that I'm writing it myself. But I mean, she said, I have my plans to get the hell out of here. But she said, in the meantime, I have to take care of a few things.
From NCPR, welcome to Northwards. People, ideas, and conversations from and about Northern New York, Vermont, and beyond. I'm Mitch Teich.
Support for the Northwards podcast comes from Joe Steiniger and Mary McDonald in support of the Adirondack Foundation, building stronger Adirondack communities.
I'm going to start out by telling you a little something about myself here. I will try not to overshare. I have been living for a really long time with Crohn's disease. If you don't know what that is, I'll just say I do not recommend it. My body spends a lot of time trying to systematically kill off my digestive system. I'm telling you this as a way to explain that I've had what some people would think of as nasty tummy aches since I was about 16 years old. It's really my intestines, but I'm not going to split hairs here. Anyway, it was a few years after I started feeling lousy that my dad was in Japan on a business trip. And while he was there, he picked up a CD for me, maybe as a joke, maybe in case it was helpful, called Medical Music, Stomach and Intestines. Here is a little piece from it. Okay, so it also happens to be Bach's Brandenburg Concerto No. 6, performed by the Stuttgart Chamber Orchestra. And I have to say, it doesn't make my intestines feel any worse. The whole reason I'm telling you this story is to point out that I have a little something in common with Ann Sweeten. She has also been living with chronic illnesses, in her case, first breast cancer and now leukemia. She does not rely on the Stuttgart Chamber Orchestra in hard times, though. She is actually a composer of piano music that not only helps her work through challenging times, but helps other people through their own health challenges. Ann Sweeten's new CD is called Love Walks Through Rain. She lives in Clayton and in Massachusetts, which is where we reached her. Ann Sweeten, it is a real pleasure.
Same here, Mitch.
Well, and before we get too much further, I think I have to say a belated happy birthday.
Yes, I had a great birthday, the 1st of August.
How did you spend it?
Well, in the morning, more, just trying to deal with stuff because we left the next day to come back to Massachusetts. But in the afternoon, we went to this little cute kind of restaurant cafe for some Prosecco. And it looks right out on this marina in Clayton, New York. And then we went to a restaurant called DePrinzio's for dinner, right on the St. Lawrence River, and also in Clayton. Had a delicious dinner and went home and opened packages, and people called me to wish me happy birthday, which is why I forgot my phone.
Right. You sent me a note this morning saying that you left your phone in Clayton and
Right.
you're back in Massachusetts.
Well, the thing was, I had packed it away. I thought everyone had called me, and somebody else called me, and my husband pulled it out, and then I left it on the table, and we left early in the morning, and I've never done that. Never done that. And anyway.
Well, so we're talking to you in Massachusetts, but as you say, you have this place in Clayton. What does having the place up here mean to you?
Well, it's the St. Lawrence River has always been near and dear to my heart. When I was a few months old, we moved up to Watertown, New York, and we lived on a street called Paddock Street. At that point in time, my father worked at New York Airbrake, and it was a great neighborhood. But all of our neighbors also summered at this little yacht club in Clayton called the Clayton Yacht Club, right on the river. So my parents did as well. And then we'd all go down there, and everybody had a cabana back in the day. Now it's completely renovated and very different, but parts of it are still exactly like they were when I was a little girl, and it's very, very nostalgic. But anyway, we moved away when I was quite young, but my mother kept in touch with all these neighbors and would bring me back and to revisit and rekindle and go down to the river, the yacht club and whatnot. And as I got older, my mother passed away when I was quite young. I stayed in touch with her contemporaries. Um, all their kids, were off at college or they'd graduated, gotten married, were starting to have kids and stuff. And that was not my path. Um, and so, over the years, I kept loosely in touch with a number of the people, and then they would try and get as many of the folks that were more my age to visit as well if they were around. So that's how it started. And then I decided I wanted to get a house up there. And we looked and we looked and we looked and we couldn't find anything. And then my husband had been saying right along, well, let's buy land. And I said, oh, good God, I can't even begin to think of, all I can think of is the septic, the well, the wiring, the electric. It was just completely daunting, but we were having no luck. So one day we had a list of houses we wanted to see, and the realtor said, I'm sorry, but none of these are a go. I mean, you don't want to see them. You can see them, but you won't like them. And I said, all right, very well. You got any land? And so he said, I actually have one parcel left, blah, 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 right on the river. And we went to go see it. That was it. We bought it. And that was 2014. We built the shell in 2016, and now we live there. We're there about 6 months, back and forth, 3 weeks there, 1 week here.
When you get to a certain age, you should probably stop thinking about those things you'd like to do when you grow up. But having another place somewhere seems like something that I would like to have when I grow up. Listening to you talk about having this place to go to, it sounds like just a really special part of who you are.
It is. It absolutely is. And the other thing is that I named the place after one of my pieces, River Song. My last three albums, the covers were all shot up there. I compose up there. I write my liner notes up there many times. It's wonderful. We have so many more friends up there actually than we do here. And I've lived here for, God, I think it's 40 years now. We have friends, but it's not, these relationships go back to childhood. I mean, some of these people, we all ran around in the sprinklers together.
Wow.
You know what I mean? In the backyard on Paddock Street. It's just very cool.
Forgive this question because maybe I'm making a comparison that doesn't exist, but you tell me. You and your husband designed the house on the St. Lawrence River kind of from whole cloth. Is there a comparison to be made in designing a house and writing a song?
Well, the process is very different, but I think the philosophy behind it is the same. And Randy has incredible vision and very artistic in multi-mediums. And I mean, he gets these ideas all the time, but in much the same way, I'll be thinking about something or are influenced by what's going on in nature right outside, a moody day, for example. I mean, one of the pieces on my new album is Out of the Fog. It's multidimensional, but the initial sort of impetus for the song or the inspiration, I was sitting in our great room and it was extremely foggy. And one of those, those big freighters that go by, wind was coming out, almost looked like a ghost ship. And you could barely see it. It was emerging out of this bank of mist and fog and blank piece of paper. And a song was born. I think I wrote it in one day.
When did that the Ann Sweeten who was running around under the sprinkler at 5? At what point did you know you wanted to be a musician?
Well, actually, when I was 6, I had gone over to my cousin's house, and she had this little toy keyboard. It was no more than, probably a foot and a half long, nothing. But I was fascinated, absolutely fascinated. I had already started taking ballet, so I loved music. And my mother always had Broadway show tune records going on and other things too. But I was always dancing in front of the stereo. And so I guess I'm just musically inclined. And I happened to tell my mother about my cousin's keyboard. And I, went on and on and on. I said, Christmas is coming. You think I could get one? And she just took it on. Well, we'll see, we'll see. And that Christmas, my mother gave me a Hammond organ, and I was so elated. And I couldn't reach the pedals because I was too little. So I stood the first year and I started lessons, but I started playing it right away. And then, through the course of a couple of different teachers, we they told me that I told my mother, if you want her to truly develop technically, you need to get an acoustic instrument here. And so my ninth Christmas, I got a piano.
Well, and to hear this story and to listen to your latest album or your previous work, people would be surprised to hear if I have this right, and I think I do, that when you started, you fronted a rock band.
Well, I mean, yes, I was, well, I had done a lot of ballet, and I had done a couple of musicals. My teachers, I was in a little ballet company in New Jersey, actually, and they were hired by a couple of regional theaters to provide choreography and the dancers for the chorus. So I did a couple of those. But then shortly after college, living in Boston, I got myself into a rock band. Yes. And I had the spiked hair and everything. And I was the lyricist of all the music in the original band. And we did that for, I guess it was a couple of years. Then I went back to the Boston Conservatory and, you know, I, for a while, I was juggling two careers. I was using the kind of cabaret at clubs and restaurants. I would sing and play. But then I started to introduce my own material into my sets, and the response was like incredible. So I met my husband in 90, and I hadn't recorded anything yet. But he said, "What was that you just played?" We met on Block Island, Rhode Island. And we were at one of the hotels that had a piano, and I was just playing while he went to get us a couple of drinks or something. And I said, "Oh, it's just composition of the moment." And he said, "You're kidding, right?" And I said, "No, I'm just literally fussing around on the piano." He goes, "That should be recorded." And I said, "No, no, no, no." And he said, "Yes, yes, yes, yes." And I said, "Well, listen, I'm primarily an actress and all of that. And I'm a musician." But I said, so if I record it, I have no idea what to do." He goes, "Just record it. We'll figure it out." And that is the beginning of the story. And now 16 albums later.
So thank God your cousin didn't have like a slide whistle or or an accordion, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So how are you doing? I gather the last few years haven't really been especially easy for you.
I would say the last 20 plus, actually. Yeah, two bouts of breast cancer, and then I ended up with leukemia in 2017, which really pulled my cork because, I figured I was done. I was just done. And I was just, what more can really happen here? But the first time I had breast cancer, uh, the radiation doses that they used was pretty powerful. And no one can really say this, but I've talked to some of my doctors, and they feel that it's probably because of that. As I had the radiation, well, over 20 years ago, and things have changed a lot. And The only known cause of leukemia is exposure to radiation. So anyway, now let's see, it's been 6 years. I'm on my fourth drug. They are referred to as chemo drugs, but they are not IV. They're pill you take every day. And I've had a lot of side effects, problems, which is why I've had so many different ones. The one I'm on now, knock on wood, appears to be doing a good job without, you know, any issues. So I'm just like this, I just try not to even think about it. I just like take every day. Sometimes something I'll feel something and I'm like, I wonder if that's drug related. This has definitely taken a lot out of me. All these drugs, um, I'm a pretty energetic person and stuff, but not the way I was before all this proverbial, what hit the proverbial thing.
It must at least be nice to have this place in Clayton and also the comfort of your music to go to when times are rough.
When I'm up there, I totally forget about it. And one reason we come home, like for a week or so, um, is usually well, they follow me closely, so I have to see these doctors and stuff. Um, so, that when I get home, it's like, okay, now we have to face that music and, those blood tests and wait for those results and hope that the drug is working the way they had wanted it to. But being up there is, yes, it's just complete solace, and it it's just so beautiful. I mean, and so pastoral. I mean, most of around us is conservation land too. And then my music, through everything, I've always sat down at my piano and whatever pain or anger or the various emotions you go through when these things happen, and it's released somehow, channels through my fingers into the keyboard, and out comes this piece. And now one example was when I did get um, the diagnosis for the leukemia. The nature of they call the rogue chromosome is called Philadelphia 22. And I wrote a piece called Philadelphia 22. And when I first wrote it, it was angry. And I mean, there was a lot of boom banging on the keys. And you know, that was how it started, its inception. And then gradually, as I worked it, the anger was released, and I was able to finesse it into something that was dramatic and powerful, but not anger for anger's sake. I mean, I was able to harness it. That's it. I was able to harness the anger by smoothing it out, and it's a beautiful piece, and it's very very emotional. Something's going on, but I knew I had to start the piece. I had to let that out because I need to get past it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally, yeah. You were talking about how you've been through a couple of bouts with breast cancer, and you're currently living through leukemia. And I saw in your biography that one of the things that you do is that you're actually a featured artist with something called Healing Healthcare Systems. Is that music for people who are going through rough times with their health as well?
Well, it's health issues in general. This is a Healing Healthcare Systems. That's the company name. The Care Channel is what is featured in all these hospitals and clinics and whatnot for people who are in the hospital, who have in their audio videos, so people see a relaxing, beautiful thing. They make these videos and they put an artist's music to it. and they did a feature on me. I think it was a couple years ago, but the video is just gorgeous, and they have my music coming in, but they also have me playing and coming in and out through the mountains and stuff, sort of ghosted imagery and whatnot. And it's just so soothing for people who are in an otherwise very stark environment, you know? So, yeah, and before that, I was involved briefly with Arts and Healthcare, which was started at St. Joseph's College in it's West Hartford, Connecticut. They had a nursing program and everything, and I gave a regular concert for the public. Then I did another concert for the nursing students with a Q&A the following day. And then we went to the hospital and I gave another concert in the lobby. And then we did another meet and greet and a luncheon upstairs with all the clergy, some patients. One patient was there and she came up to me. She had, her kerchief and everything, and she was in a wheelchair with her husband. And she stayed for the concert. She came to the luncheon. They all had so many questions for me. I couldn't get around to her to talk to her, and she had already left. And I was like, oh. And they told me she was in hospice. And I was just like, oh God. And then I just really wished I could have gotten her number, or just talked with her briefly. Well, Lord, and believe it or not, on the way home, I got a text and she contacted me. And then we went back and forth and whatnot. She said, I want to use your poem and your song Halfway Home for my eulogy. She said, I'm writing it myself. And I wondered if I could use it. And I said, absolutely. But I mean, she said, I have my plans to get the hell out of here. But she said, in the meantime, I have to take care of a few things. I mean, it was just, anyway, when she passed away, and I dedicated a video to her.
Let me ask you a weird question, because this is the kind of thing that plays in my mind a lot as I work my way through middle age. When you're in your own head, how old are you?
Is this a question about how old I wish I was, or how old I feel?
We have this vision of ourselves. I feel like we have this vision of ourselves, right? That if, you conked me over the head and I, forgot like my current circumstances, I would wake up and think I'm like what age? And, for me, it's like 32 or something. And I feel like, there's a moment in my existence where I'm sitting with my relatives and they're all a certain age, and, we're sitting around a room in my grandparents' house. And it's funny because it doesn't work really, because I'm 32 and, and they're like 41, but, they're actually 30 years older than me. So, but I feel like we all have this moment that we're frozen in time. And I guess I'm curious, given all that you have gone through in your life, like whether you have there's an Ann Sweeten that's frozen in time.
I wouldn't say frozen in time, but I would say in my head, like early 40s. That's when I got married to Randy. It was pre all this stuff. I mean, I know it's changed me. Just say that.
Yeah. So maybe to turn things to a happier moment, we're talking to you. You're in Massachusetts now, but you'll be back in Clayton pretty soon. What's the first thing that you're going to do when you walk through the door, besides find your phone? What's the first thing?
Where it is. The first thing I'm going to do, well, we have to unload everything. But we have 3 dogs, so they get priority. We got to get them out on the deck.
I know what the first thing that they want to do.
Yes. Run them around and put them out on the deck so that we can come in and out without them, running out. And then, as I said, we have so many friends up there. We've got so many get-togethers that I'll be getting ready for those. friends coming over and going places and, just it's just so much fun to socialize with these people. And it's weird, because we have these huge pockets of our lives, their kids have their own kids now. And I missed out on so much of that in terms of knowing them during those times. But now I'm meeting their kids and their kids. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, there's this big gap, but it doesn't seem to matter, you know?
Well, before we
Before we close.
yeah, I really just want to say, Ann Sweeten, it's just been a true delight getting to know you.
Same here, Mitch.
Ann Sweeten's new CD is called Love Walks Through Rain. She spent part of her childhood in Watertown and along the St. Lawrence River. She now divides her time between Clayton and Massachusetts, which is where we reached her. You will find out more about Ann Sweeten at ncpr.org/northwards. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Northwards. I'm Mitch Tyke. I hope you enjoyed our interview, and you can catch new content every Friday right here or wherever you get your podcasts. Find out more about Northwards and NCPR on our mobile app or at our website, ncpr.org. And while you're there, make a donation to support everything you hear on North Country Public Radio.
Northwards is an NCPR podcast production. The show is written, edited, and produced by Mitch Tyke with digital production supervision by me, Ethan Shanty. Caitlin Kelly handles our social media, Bill Hanel is our digital director, and Doyle Dean is our production manager. Music is by the Wickmore Jazz Trio of Plattsburgh. To support this show and find more podcasts, visit ncpr.org. This is NCPR, North Country Public Radio.